Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Calvin Show. I'm Calvin. Let's jump in the water. Today, we have a question from Georgian Benta. Georgian interviewed me for his podcast, the Gratitude Podcast, just last week.
Hi, Calvin. Here's my situation. I always tend to earn just a little bit more than I spend, and this makes business a bit hard for me. I tend to overwhelm myself because I love what I'm doing and I love to overdeliver. And when it comes to asking for help or to hiring people, I can't afford it. Being spiritually oriented, I was taught that it's not okay to accumulate material possessions, and this includes money. So, how did you, being a spiritual person, got to have such a great relationship with money? Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Georgian. We're going to dedicate today's episode to this question because it's so juicy. It's a beautiful, brilliant question. I love it. And there's so many aspects that we can touch on with this question. Let me start by celebrating the fact that you actually earn more than you spend. That puts you ahead of at least 50% of the population, I'd say, if not more. It certainly puts you ahead of the US government and most local governments in the US and elsewhere in the world. So, great fucking job on that one. All right? Celebrate that. So on the note of spending almost everything you earn, a lot of businesses spend way more than they earn. Like Uber these days is making huge losses. Lyft is making huge losses. It's all about what are you investing in. And to my mind, the best thing that you can invest in is yourself. Mentally, spiritually, physically, increase your capacity to receive and experience abundance and success and love in your life. You can obviously also invest in financial assets or businesses or products or things like that that are going to generate revenue for you. But if you haven't taken care of the investing in your own capacity to receive, then that's going to be moot. Be mindful about just investing your money wisely. And if you're doing that, investing as much money as everything that you make makes a lot of sense. Investing more than you make and taking out a loan can make a lot of sense, depending on the circumstance. Another thing I noticed in your question was you talked about that you very often get overwhelmed. And that to me is a clear sign of some sort of self-hate. So you might want to go back and listen to the video about where I talk about the book about There's Nothing Wrong With You, where we talk specifically about self-hate. I hear that you say that accumulating material wealth, including money, is somehow not spiritual. You're not allowed to do that. Of course, you're allowed to accumulate material wealth and money and anything else. To me, spirituality is another word for love. It's about not judging things. So let's not judge accumulation of wealth. It's all about loving everything as it is. There's no judgment about accumulating wealth. And I know that a lot of spiritual people have issues with this, and I think it's a lie. So get that notion out of your head. Something else I noticed what you were saying was that you love what you do and you love to over-deliver. To me, that rings of an integrity issue. And a lot of people think that, well, me giving too much, if you're selling a session for an hour and you end up spending an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes with people, that's somehow a good thing. Well, I'm giving more. It's not, honestly. It's you not keeping the agreement that you've made with your client and with yourself. And so in that way, you're not keeping your agreement with yourself, which is a problem. It's also modeling a behavior to your client that's not helpful for them if they do it in their lives. So you think you're giving something to your client, but in reality, you're not. You are hurting your client and you are cheating yourself, you're hurting yourself in the process. We tend to over-deliver because we're feeling like the value we're providing is somehow not enough. We've sold them something that we don't believe has the value of what we're charging for it. If that's the case, then that's something that you need to fix. Either up the value or change your belief system around the value that you're providing, not just for yourself, obviously, but also for your clients and for your audience, because as long as you're modeling these things, you're not truly serving them in that area. And that's not a criticism or a judgment, but just be aware of this is an area that you need to address. It sounds like there's an issue around you being worthy of receiving value. If there is a situation that has been persistent in your life for a long time, and it kind of sounds like this pattern has been, and I define a long time as being like 3 months or more, know that there is some underlying unconscious commitment within you to having the situation be this way. And just start to wonder about that. Is it because I have trouble receiving love? Is there other areas in your life where you have trouble receiving? If someone gives you a compliment, is it difficult for you to receive that? There is a tendency amongst humans to have an upper limit to how much goodness we can have in our lives. And if it gets too good, we will have some kind of accident. We will manufacture some kind of loss in some way. We'll lose money. We'll maybe lose a loved one or a friendship or relationship. Something to bring it down a notch. For a long time, I was scared of being happy. When I was a kid, it seemed to be when I was very happy, my dad would feel threatened by that, and so he would start to find fault with me and attack me for something and scold me. And so whenever I was happy and my wife would reflect that on me and she would be like, "Oh, you're really happy today," immediately I'd turn unhappy. The guilt of being happy and this fear of being happy set in, and I would make myself unhappy, unconsciously, but very effectively. Gay Hendricks wrote a great book on this particular topic about, he calls it the upper limit problem. It's called The Big Leap. I recommend that to everybody, for everybody to read, because this is such a fundamental issue for everyone. Being more and more comfortable with more happiness and love and success, it's a challenge. We don't think it's going to be a challenge, but it really is. For many, many years, I've lived in a place where I always spend as much as I earn. I wouldn't say I'm past it, because then I'll save something up and then I'll be like, you know what, let me invest in that. For me, everything that I do is part of this spiritual growth. So even going on vacation, going and staying in a fancy hotel or going on this fancy trip, it might start to program my system that, you know, I am worthy of receiving this level of service and this level of comfort and love, and start to feel comfortable in that. Like, a lot of us, again, are not aware of our receiving channels. To have the flow of life work, there needs to be giving and there needs to be receiving. We don't recognize the fact that we have fears of receiving. If I'm trying to give you something and you're not willing to receive it, you're blocking me. You're blocking the flow of life. You're blocking the flow of energy. It sounds like you would benefit from opening your receiving channels and being more comfortable receiving and inquiring into what your hang-ups about receiving might be. I remember the moment when I kind of realized how committed I was to not receiving love. We were staying in San Diego for several months, and we went to the Bikram studio there, and they had a steam room, so before you went into the steamy hot yoga, you could sit in the steam room, and I guess, I don't know, I'd kind of slowly started to open up to receiving love for a bit at this time. And all of a sudden, I sat there and I just had this experience that this entire steam room was trying to give me love. The building, the city, the world, the universe, I could just really feel in my body how this was all conspiring to give me love. And it made me realize how I had been so committed to not taking it in. My belief system was that there was something fundamentally wrong with me, which I think a lot of us have this underlying feeling that there's something fundamentally flawed about us. My fear was that if I allowed even just like a tiny sliver of love to enter into my heart, I would get complacent and I would never work to and do the things that I needed to do and fix the things that I needed to fix and become the person I needed to become in order to be worthy of love. It doesn't work that way. There was the episode that we did a few weeks back on the book, There's Nothing Wrong With You. This system does not ever end. There's literally love all around you at all times. The breath that you take in is an expression of the universe's love for you. Take it in and allow it to soothe you. Another thing that comes up for me, definitely something that I can relate to, it sounds like there might be a fear of what might happen if you had an abundance of money. Most people have so many hang-ups around money. We attach all kinds of meaning to it and shame, but I was convinced that I was irresponsible with money. Unconsciously, I would be committed to making sure I didn't have too much of it. And this is one thing that might be about for you. It might be something completely different, or it might be many things. But this is something that I could relate to. At one point, we implemented an annual plan for Simplero, and I was super scared about doing that, mainly because I was scared that like what might happen if all of a sudden I got this huge influx of cash X number of months down the line. I wouldn't have any more money to pay for whatever services I needed because I'd spent all the money up front. We did end up implementing the annual plan, and it was fine, but that was the unconscious fear. A biggie around money is overlaying our authority issues onto money. A lot of us, present company included, have issues around authority. All kinds of places this shows up, but one place in particular is with money. Like, I noticed that you used the word "I can't afford," which is like saying, well, money is out there and it's some external authority that says what I can and can't do versus here's what I choose to do. You are as much the creator of money as you're the creator of everything else in your life. And that was something that I did around the visa too. I was like, I am the source of visas, and I am because I am the one consciousness and I'm one with the universe. It's not me against them. There's no me and other. There's no money is not outside of me. I am the source of everything, including money, US dollars, and US visas. There is no authority outside of you. There is no other higher, different other authority than you. You are the source of the money. And so just being willing to maybe acknowledge that that might be true. Why did I choose this, and what do I choose instead? And how do I need to organize myself in order to choose something different? I had a teacher at one point who was talking about the relationship with money, as any other kind of relationship. Like, just like we can have a relationship with our dad or our lover or friends or whatever. Gay Hendricks, has this model. It's not like you have 50% responsibility and I have 50% responsibility and we're trying to divide it up. And then I go like, well, I'm taking 60% responsibility here, so I'm a martyr. Or I take too little responsibility. I take 40% responsibility and I become a victim. I was like, So instead of thinking about it as 100% pie that you divvy up into two halves, think about it as two separate pies. So I have a 100% responsibility for this relationship, and you have 100% responsibility for this relationship. If there's something in this relationship that's not how I want it, it's because I created it that way. And I have the power and the responsibility to change it to be what I want it to be. And the other person has the power and responsibility to change it to what they want it to be, including choosing not to be together, choosing to basically sever the relationship is a choice that you can make. The same goes with money. You have 100% responsibility for your relationship with money. All right, that was a mouthful. I really appreciate your question. I love that your question was like 37 seconds and your response was like 8 hours. I don't know the exact specifics of your situation, so I'm just saying everything that basically comes up for me when I hear this question and giving you some pointers to what it might be. And I hope obviously it's useful to you, Georgian, and I hope that it's very useful to everybody else out there who's listening. I'm sure that you're going to be able to relate to at least some of these things. The top 8 richest people in the world own as much wealth as the bottom 50%, as the bottom 3.5 billion. Clearly, something in the way that we've organized ourselves around money, with money, is not really serving us. Like, we could create a world where nobody had to go hungry and nobody had to be without some sort of healthcare and proper nurturing, and clearly that's not the world that we've created. And it's something that I'm intensely curious about, figure out how to create a world that functions better for everyone. I know I'm not the only one. Money, such a key topic, such a huge topic. I'm so grateful to you for bringing it up. To sum up the answer to your question, how did you, Calvin, get to have such a great relationship with money? I don't feel like I'm finished in my relationship with money. I don't think I ever will be, but I have vastly different and better relationship with money now than I did 5 or 10 years ago. I have a vastly better relationship with money than what I saw growing up in my family. What I've done is basically everything that I've talked about in this episode. These are all from personal experience. I've had judgment about having money. I remember at one point I was doing a workshop where we had to talk about negative projections, like what are things that you don't want to be, and one of them was rich. I found it terribly embarrassing to be rich because the rich people that I grew up around were generally awful, horrible, shallow, cold people. I had big hang-ups about being perceived as being rich. I actually remember at one point we were in Encinitas and I was driving this BMW Z4. I was thinking about putting on this blue blazer jacket and I was scared to put it on because I was afraid that the people at that Encinitas cafe might think I was rich. Driving up in a BMW Roadster top down, and I'm worried that these people are going to think I'm rich because I'm wearing a blue blazer jacket, you know? I was really scared that people were going to reject me if they realized I had money. These are the kinds of things that you need to address in order to heal your relationship with money. There's not like one thing, there is a variety of things. Right before leaving India, we'd went shopping in a Burberry store, and I'd spent more money than I'd ever spent before in my life shopping clothes, especially in one go. And it felt like so scary to do and so shameful and so wrong. We were talking to Gay about this and mentioned that, and he was like, well, you wanted that clothes, right? And I was like, yeah, I wanted that clothes. Good, that's your business. Where the money's coming from, that's the universe's business. That's not your business. And I was like, what are you saying? How does this compute? The universe actually wants you to have everything that you want to have. So if you want those clothes, then the universe wants you to have those clothes. I've really worked on this to get to the point where I'm at and still working. So yeah, just have at it and get going on this and know that you are worthy of everything that you want. This has been another episode of The Calvin Show. Go to my website over at calvincorelli.com if you're not already there, and post your thoughts and your questions in the comments below. I love to hear from you. Also, make sure that you sign up for the mailing list so we can be in touch. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, just go be you.